What's going on, nation, and welcome to 7 muscle building mistakes that natural lifters make. Now guys, this video wasn't made to judge anyone. It was made to just educate you as a natural lifter because there's certain things that you need to keep in mind in terms of weight training and eating in order to maximize your gains, especially when compared to an enhanced athlete. So no judging, just education. So let's get started with the first topic, and that's eating too much. A lot of natural lifters think that in the off season, when you're supposed to be bulking, you need to eat all kinds of food, including junk food, to gain a lot of muscle. The more fat you pack on, the better. We've all heard this before. But it doesn't work like that, nation. As a natural athlete, if your routine and meal plan are on point, in general, you can expect to gain around 20 to 25 pounds of muscle your first year. 12 to 15 your second year, 6 to 8 your third, and for every year after that, so your fourth and plus years, you gain about 4 to 5 pounds of muscle a year. So if you're eating too much, thinking that you'll force feed your muscles to grow, I'm sorry, but all you're doing is gaining fat. The right thing to do is to eat 250 to 500 calories above your maintenance calories each day to make sure you're growing muscle. And yes, you'll gain a little bit of fat as well, but this way you're growing lean and minimizing the damage. You can check out my video on this topic called Are You Bulking or Just Fat? Right here, I'll put a video link. Now keep in mind, it's important for you to know that extra fat, especially belly fat, affects insulin sensitivity, thyroid hormonal function, and testosterone levels. And I talk more about T levels in a video right here called How to Maximize Your Testosterone Naturally. But all of that makes it even harder for you to make gains and lose fat with each bulking cycle. So why would you want to go on a crazy bulk and gain all kinds of fat just to have a harder time to lose the extra fat in the end? It doesn't make any sense. So yes, eat more to grow, but eat at an adequate calorie surplus. Number 2, having unrealistic expectations. Now I get comments like this all the time. Scott, how come you haven't grown like what's-his-face over here? He gained 20 pounds of muscle in 1 year and he's been lifting longer than you, blah, 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 blah. How come you've been the same size since you started your YouTube channel? It's like, first of all, I'm not the same size since I started my YouTube channel, but regardless of that, there's such unrealistic expectations set out there on what's achievable as a natural athlete that it starts to get a bit ridiculous. And there's nothing that pisses me off more than when I'm compared to athletes that are on drugs. To me, that's ignorance at its best. You can look shredded and pretty big as a natural athlete, but sorry to say, you will not look humongous like these pro bodybuilders and many of these so-called natural athletes all over the fitness industry. That's the reality, nation. As a drug-free athlete, and not drug-free for the past 6 months, a drug-free athlete, you will have a limit which is defined by your genetic makeup. Also, understand that you're not going to see unlimited growth for the rest of your life, guys. If that was true, every experienced lifter would look like the Hulk. And this is something that I get all the time. People ask me, Scott, how long have you been training? And I say, I've been training since I was 12. And then they look at me like I'm a failure, like my arm should be the size of a Mack truck. You know, it's like, guys, use your brain. You know, you do have a genetic potential. Your gains will taper off as time goes by, and that's just how it is. If you want to be huge, unless you have a genetic mutation, it probably won't happen naturally. One way to look bigger but still be natural, if that's what you're into, is to carry a little more body fat so that your overall frame looks bigger. Lots of my friends actually do that because they prefer to look more intimidating versus being shredded. But let me clarify that drug users are not just the humongous guys like Arnold. There are plenty out there that are in the mid-range physique category that might trick you to think that they're natural and make you think that you can look like them. So don't be gullible, guys. Educate yourself. Make a decision as to what your goal is and have realistic expectations in terms of what you're going to achieve. And this is the main point I want to make. If you guys have listened to this video so far, this is the main point. I hate seeing people give up on fitness because they're working hard and not looking like that big shredded natural physique guy that is obviously taking something. Number 3, thinking heavy weight and low reps are the only way to gain muscle. Here's some bro science for you guys, and I know you've heard this before. The only way to get big is to lift big. I recently saw this forum post on bodybuilding.com, and I'm sure you guys have seen by now that whenever I do research on topics, I check a lot of different sites, and I will go to bodybuilding.com as well. And I was looking in the forums, and I saw this kid just get absolutely bashed by every single person in that forum thread because he asked if his chest workout was going to build muscle and he was doing a high volume chest workout. And every single comment said that he was wrong and he needs to change his rep ranges. He should only be lifting 5 to 6 reps as heavy as he can. That's the only way to build muscle. Now, before we dig into that, I want to say something. If you're on steroids, you'll grow muscle no matter what because of all that extra awesome testosterone flowing through your body. Now, I'm not saying that if you're on enhancing drugs, you don't have to work hard, because I have a lot of friends that are professional bodybuilders that use them and they still have to kill themselves in the gym to get good competition-ready results. If you want to look big on stage, you do have to lift pretty hard. It doesn't happen overnight. But with that being said, you will probably see good results with any kind of technique that you're using if you're on drugs. For the rest of us mortals out there, technique is very important. And as you probably have all seen in my previous videos, like in my Muscle Genes Genetic Report, and I'll put a link to that video over here, and a link below if you guys are interested in getting your muscle genes tested, that my report revealed that I personally need to do high volume workouts in order to build muscle. There are 3 mechanisms by which muscles grow, nation, and heavy loads or mechanical tension is just one of them. On top of this, using just this technique will work best only for those people with a higher ratio of fast twitch muscle fibers. If you're like me with a higher ratio of slow twitch muscle fibers, and remember, I found this out on my Muscle Genes report, this approach will not work for you in terms of maximizing muscle growth. And I'll talk more about the 3 hypertrophy mechanisms in another video. It's just too much content to cover right now, and I want to stay on point. But the bottom line is that recent research has led us to believe that the sweet spot for maximizing muscle growth is actually a middle ground which gets benefits from all 3 growth mechanisms. It involves reasonably higher reps, so from 6 to 12, but I personally even prefer to stay in the 8 to 12 rep range, and weights that I believe should be used in this range are 75% to 85% of your 1 rep max. So don't be a bro, guys. There isn't one recipe to get the most growth. You have a few options. You can operate in the middle ground or incorporate these different techniques to see what works best for you. If you're a fast twitch muscle fiber guy, you'll see great gains with low reps and heavy weight. But if you're a slow twitch guy like me, you'll need more volume to grow. Number 4, my favorite topic, not doing full range of motion. Again, in the topic of technique, another issue I see all the time in the gym is half reps. If you're not natural, actually even if you are natural, you will see growth with half reps, but you will not see the most amount of growth you could achieve. Every single time I approach someone who's doing half reps, their response to me is, "Whoa, I built a lot of muscle doing half reps." And my response to them is, well, just think of how much time you're wasting and how much more muscle and strength you could have built if you did full range of motion. Now, like I said, as a natty, everything counts, and full range of motion will make sure you're elongating those muscle fibers to the max, and will make sure you're also maximizing the eccentric or descending part of a movement. If you're bicep curling, this is the descending part of the movement, where you get a lot of tension and stimulate the most amount of growth. So don't cheat yourself. Are you at the gym to show off and pretend you can handle weights you really can't? Or are you trying to actually look good and grow as much as possible? Number 5, following advice from athletes that are on enhancing drugs. Someone that is taking drugs to increase muscle growth or help with fat loss will react to exercise and food very differently than a natural athlete. So why would you copy their workout regimen or meal plan? Technique, workout frequency, rep range, weights, and so many other variables will generate very different results for each group, juicing and not juicing. But don't get me wrong, guys. There are topics and certain general knowledge that is common for everybody. I'm not saying don't take advice from people who are on juice, just make sure they're knowledgeable and are building a plan that is custom for you. I see a lot of bros who just tell their communities to do what they do, but they leave out one key ingredient. they owe their gains to juice. Also, because what's-his-face eats pizza before his workout, claiming he practices if it fits your macros and he looks great, it does not mean you will too. The other mistake people make is assuming that if somebody looks good, they are automatically qualified to teach others. I hate to break it to you, nation, but looks are not correlated to IQ whatsoever. I've seen some really dumb people that have an awesome physique, and on the other hand, I've seen some scrawny looking dudes that were some of the smartest, most knowledgeable people I've ever met. Some clues to watch out for are they articulate? Are they entertaining you or actually giving you solid information? Do they have experience? Have they actually trained people before? Do they read? Do they even know how to read? Are they getting information from research or just babbling for 15 minutes giving you their opinion? You get the point, guys. There is nothing wrong with reading random stuff or watching fitness personalities for fun. I do it all the time. But it shouldn't mean you actually believe or have to follow their advice. Know the difference. Number 6, not switching up your workouts. Now I see this all the time at the gym. Day in and day out, people are doing the same exact routine that they've been doing forever. Same old arm routine, same old chest routine, and their results tend to never increase. You guys know what I'm talking about. You have to keep in mind that your body's very smart and it adapts to everything you're throwing at it. Thinking in terms of a graph, the results from a workout routine will go up for a while, hit a peak, and then taper off. The goal here is you want to vary your exercises and techniques to make sure you're hitting and challenging your muscles in different ways. So you hit the peak, but then move on to a different routine before it starts to taper off. This way you're constantly growing at a maximum rate. Don't ever let your routine get stale. If it's not challenging anymore, it's time to switch it up. A good general guideline is changing your routine every 6 weeks, but it varies depending on the individual. If you feel it bringing results still, it's okay to keep it longer. The best gauge for it is yourself, and don't think that you have to completely create a new routine. You can change the order of the exercises, change the finisher, change the reps and sets, or even incorporate different techniques like pyramiding your sets, for example. If you guys would like some suggestions, just leave a comment for me down below. The 7th and final mistake is not paying attention to details. For us natural lifters, every detail matters if you want to achieve maximum growth. Maybe if you're on enhancing drugs, you can get away with more, but as a natty athlete, if you want to grow as much as possible, here are some things you need to pay attention to. Food. This is something we already talked about. Your meal plan needs to be on point, nation. Each type of macro is very important and plays a role on growth. Do you know how much of each macro you're eating a day? Bottom line is, eat the right amount of calories and in the right ratio. If you need help calculating your macros, go to muscularstrength.com and in the meal plan section you'll find a BMR calculator and a step-by-step video on how to calculate your protein, carbs, and fat goals. Next is how insulin function could play an important role on being shredded depending on your genetic makeup. Some people can eat more carbs and get away with it, but if you're like me with below average insulin function, which is something I learned from my Muscle Genes report, you need to watch carbs closely. Simple carbs like white rice and sweets, in general, cause your insulin to spike, causing fat burning to stop. In my case, I release even more insulin than the average person, so fat loss really stops. I control this by eating more complex carbs. Brown rice and sweet potatoes, for example, keep insulin release more consistent instead of a huge spike. Also, I try to avoid eating simple carbs when I wake up so my body stays in fat burning mode from my overnight fast. And also before my workouts so fat burning doesn't stop during my lifts. Keeping your testosterone level in check is very important as well. Don't do anything that might affect your T levels drastically, like consistently drinking booze and not getting enough sleep. You guys can check this video out for more details on that. Now, if you want to gain that extra edge, you can get supplements to help with your gains, but instead of following fads, spend your money on well-proven supplements such as creatine, fish oil, and BCAAs, especially leucine, but don't let them be the solution for a bad meal plan. Remember, they're supposed to be supplementing it, not replacing it. Last on my list, guys, pay attention to your micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. These guys play a key role in so many processes in your body. Lack of certain vitamins can affect important hormonal processes such as testosterone production. Hormones are a huge factor in maximizing your gains as well, and minerals are just as important. I know pizza and Pop-Tarts are awesome, but they should be the exception and not the rule. The if it fits your macros trend has caused a lot of misconceptions out there, and yeah, a molecule of glucose is the same whether it comes from a Pop-Tart or a can of beans. But with the can of beans, I'm also getting some protein, some good vitamins and minerals, instead of getting tons of coloring agents, artificial flavor, and preservatives from the Pop-Tarts. In general, you should opt for functional foods that are not only giving you macros, but also vitamins and minerals for maximum benefit and growth. Think about it this way. Let's pretend I want to buy a car. I can buy the cheapest car available out there and it'll take me from point A to point B, or I can buy a different option with better fuel efficiency, better safety features, and with better quality parts for more reliability. That's why I drive a Camaro instead of a Mustang. It's that simple. Both will fulfill their function, which is taking me from point A to point B, but which one is really the better option? Same thing with food. I can get fat from a Wendy's hamburger or from a salmon fillet. Both will fulfill their goal, which is supplying me with fat molecules, but which one is really the better option? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe for more great content, and as always, guys, more good stuff coming soon. See ya.